Let's talk straight and skip the anesthesia. The state-funded media already provides enough sugarcoating to rot your teeth. We're going to dissect the divorce that's giving the Brussels aristocracy night sweats. Donald Trump's threat to toss NATO into the scrap heap of history. And don't expect the usual pre-chewed garbage for lazy minds you see on the nightly news. We're going to analyse what happens when Washington finally decides to stop footing the bill for a party where the guests don't even bring the wine, but still have the nerve to complain about the decor. Put yourself in the situation. Try to use your imagination and stop seeing yourself as a citizen of a yawning, complacent Europe. Imagine you're a guy waking up at 5 in the morning on a ranch in Texas or a factory in Ohio to fund the delusions of grandeur of some overpaid bureaucrats across the pond. If I were that average American, after saving Europe's skin in 2 world wars and burying my sons in foreign soil to defend someone else's freedom, my patience would be thinner than a cheap rolling paper. Europe has become that distant, gutless, and profoundly ungrateful relative living off the fumes of the Marshall Plan while looking down their nose at the person paying the rent. If I were Trump, I wouldn't just leave NATO. I'd grab a cold beer, sit on the porch, and watch the Russian bear feast on these people who brag about a moral superiority they couldn't defend with a slingshot. Hell, I'd probably sell the Russians some old tanks just for the pleasure of watching European leaders rehearse their surrender speeches in 5 different languages. Don't forget, Trump is, above all, a shark. He's not a professional politician, which is usually code for someone who's never worked a real job in their life. He sees the world as a negotiation table. In his first term, he was the only one in decades who didn't light the fuse on a new war. But this second round comes with surgical determination. He doesn't care about re-election anymore. He cares about his legacy. And his legacy might just be letting this marriage of convenience with Europe go up in flames. Look at NATO today. It's the North Atlantic Organization of Cowards. A club where the United States provides the security, the bases, and the body bags, while the European partners block our flight paths or deny us the use of the very facilities Washington pays a fortune for. Why should America stay married to someone who won't help you handle Iran, but expects you to go to war with China for them? It's a toxic relationship between trust fund brats who try to keep up appearances while stabbing each other under the table. And while the geopolitical world burns, most people here on the old continent live in a fog of ignorance fed by textbook anti-Americanism. It's ironic. The same people screaming for the Yankees to go home are the grandkids of the people who were on their knees for any invader that poked a head over the border decades ago. We have a Europe run by characters who couldn't tell a rifle from an umbrella. People who play at being strategists in their spare time, but lack the sovereignty or the spine to maintain their own backyard. If I were the strategist in the Oval Office, the move would be easy. I'd make a gentleman's agreement with Moscow. You keep the Baltics. I'll take Poland as a de facto protectorate, Guam style, and the rest of Europe can find out what it's like to actually pay for a military. Then we'd see those dignified leaders, the ones who couldn't last a single round of poker because they showed their hand in the first minute, begging for a shipment of missiles that we aren't sending. Europe has zero leverage over the US. What are they going to do? Stop using American social media. The Pentagon doesn't need European technology, but the capitals of the old continent need American logistics just to breathe. It's the tragedy of an intellectually stunted population that thinks it's the center of the universe, while its military relevance is, to be generous, anecdotal. To give you an idea of the level of surrealism we're living in, just look at sports. Chile getting thrashed by New Zealand or Italy, missing 3 World Cups in a row. We live in a parallel dimension where the impossible becomes the daily routine. Well, the impossible scenario of the US turning off the lights and locking the door on NATO is a lot closer than those leaders, experts in lecturing others on democracy but incapable of managing their own house, want to admit. At the end of the day, the marriage is dead. All that's left is to see who gets the dog and who's stuck with the mortgage on a European defence that, as of today, is little more than a house of cards waiting for the first gust of reality